Great, thank you very much. Between I go to questions, I would like to speak for 2 minutes about Sudan. And there's this terrible conflict. Nobody cares in America about it. Few people care about it in Europe. I understand the Emirates are more on the side of MAT, of the Security Border Forces. Can the Emirates and Europe do something to stop this war in Sudan or not?
First of all, I don't think that the UAE is on the side of Houthi. The UAE had held good relationship with all of the different parties, including the previous Prime Minister, Hamdok. And its view is that we need the political element, not only the military elements. And it was working with all of them to, complete the transition period. I mean, for the UAE, they would lose from this, feud of this war because they've invested so much in Sudan with both of them. And Sudan also is in the middle between Egypt and Ethiopia. Another, tension that need to be taken. Sudan can bleed on Somalia, it can bleed on other. And we operate 5 ports in the Red Sea. It's not in our best interest that this conflict go on for one single day more. Okay. But what I see is that in all of the efforts, international efforts to bring the warring parties together, there was one party that never showed up. And we have to ask ourselves, why didn't Burhan show up? He didn't show up in Jeddah, he didn't show up in Kenya, he didn't show up in Geneva. So what does he want? What can Europe do? And I think we need to establish the rules again. I mean, Europe and the West has always said, we need to emphasize a rule-based order. Where are the rules over there? What are the rules? Have they changed? And if they changed, well, we need to send a notice to everyone that the rules have changed. These are the new rules. If they didn't change, which means the sanctity of human life, it's the impact of humanitarian aspects. It's that the conflicts, if they're because this is not an existential conflict of identity. These are all Sudanese. They're all Sunni. It's a political. It's different than this. So I think this is where Europe, and it hasn't been really forthcoming in that.
Just a quick question, Marc. Are you optimistic about Lebanon, another country? Do you think in January we'll have a new Lebanese president or not?
Well, at least we know approximately what must be done. And there's a framework of reference, and almost all the actors refer to Resolution 1701. Even the Israelis actually refer to Resolution 1701, and they say, okay, if it's properly applied, then that will be fine. And that will be, I think, the stress test for the Europeans, among others, because they have to prove that they can deliver on that, including in terms of money, because the Lebanese army needs funds, actually. It needs to be rebuilt. Again, that's state building, actually, in the making. And also in terms of military presence, I mentioned the UNIFIL blue helmets before. If you change the mandate and you make it more robust, perhaps this time it could or it might work. Again, let's try and be a bit optimistic. I wanted just to add one thing about Iran. I forgot to say it before, but when you look at the statements produced by Germany, France, and the UK over the past months, it's actually pretty sad. It just illustrates our powerlessness. Basically, it's statements that sounds like, we condemn Iran for enriching more and more and more, and we urge Iran to reverse. And then a few months later, you have the same kind of statement. So, I mean, how can we be better, more effective, more coherent? I mean, that's the open question. And I think that we should prepare for some kinds of scenarios. So on Iran, maybe a military operation, a limited one on nuclear facilities, not necessarily an open war, a big one, but a limited series of strikes. And I agree with you, war has its own grammar, and you know when it starts, you never know when it ends. But still, and the second scenario is a potential, possible annexation of at least part of the West Bank. And again, I say part because Trump made recent statement about his previous deal of the century. It was not the Palestinian state expected, but there was a Palestinian state. Jerusalem was not the capital. It was a series of different territories linked by bridges and tunnels. So obviously it was rejected by the Palestinians at the time, by the Israeli settlers as well. Now, what he said is, well, there was this plan, but there may be other options, so it means he does not rule out annexation. And if it happens, what will the European do? Produce another statement like the one I mentioned, or can they be more robust, have more teeth?
Okay, thank you, Marc. I'm not sure that our new High Representative in the European Union, High Representative for Foreign Affairs, know a lot about the Middle East, and I don't think that her priority would be the Middle East. She's of course totally focused on Ukraine, Russia.